and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio in sunny downtown Waukesha. You can always join the show, call or text at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter, we have a very, very busy show today. A couple of guests, Jim Emmer from the Better Business Bureau is going to join us at 11:06 to talk about tax scams. It is that time of year. What they're due next Monday, April 15th.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So just a few warnings, things to look out for if you have not filed your taxes yet. And then coming up at 11:06, Kevin Erb is with the UW Extension Conservation Professional Training Program, and they are looking for weather nerds.
I think the term is weather geek.
But I think both are acceptable.
Okay.
I think both are perfectly acceptable. And of course, we're going to be talking about the eclipse and give you some tips about that. Greg, thank you for purchasing our special eclipse glasses.
I had them specially engineered by a warehouse somewhere in San Jose.
Calvin's got them on right now.
Oh, look at Calvin.
You literally cannot see anything at all. But it's so much better than, because I am of a certain age. I would love to know that I am not the only person of my age who remembers the boxes we used to have to make with a little pinhole in it. And that was the way that you used to watch the eclipse.
That still doesn't sound healthy for your eyes.
Well, but you weren't looking up at the sun.
Yeah. What were you doing?
I never made one of those boxes.
Yeah.
But that was the thing before the eclipse glasses came out.
And that was just like 2-3 weeks after the sun was created, right?
Yes.
Like the sun came to be and they're like, we have an idea.
And then I was born.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you, Greg Bach. I appreciate that. So,
I don't know why I do that. It's just funny to make an old joke. I'm getting old too. Getting old.
We all get old.
I'm
It's one of the inevitabilities of life.
My ankle just started hurting right now. So
all right. President Biden is stopping in Madison today. He is expected to announce a new student loan forgiveness program. This about a year after the Supreme Court effectively knocked down the president's first attempt to cancel borrowers' debt. So what's this going to mean? Biden's latest attempt at cancellations will be smaller and targeted toward 5 types of borrowers. This is from the Journal Sentinel. Those who may be eligible to get some or all of their federal loans canceled include borrowers whose unpaid interest has grown beyond the size of the original loan. And I know that that's a problem for a lot of folks.
yes,
That is I can't even imagine how that feels to look at what you owe and the principal has not moved and your late fees or your interest charges just keep increasing. It's insane. It is insane. Also, people who enrolled in for-profit college programs deemed low value, borrowers considered highly likely to be in default within 2 years, undergrads who have been in repayment for at least 20 years, and borrowers who are eligible for other types of loan forgiveness but have not yet applied. Student loan relief, not a big surprise, is a big issue for younger voters.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been a cornerstone. Biden's been talking about it since running. And I think he was really influenced by other people too, because he wasn't really talking about that until his opponents were, and he brought that on. Of course, Bernie Sanders is about
that, yeah.
Forgiving all the loans, period. But we have to be we have to be realistic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, if you borrow money, you do have to pay some of it back.
Well, not even so much that is that was never going to happen as far as like total loan forgiveness, not in this country. So.
Right. Student loan relief, as I said, a big issue here in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 700,600 borrowers hold $21.4 billion in federal student loan debt. And earlier this month, the UW Board of Regents voted to raise in-state grad tuition for school next year by 3.75%.
They're just making it harder. They're making it harder and harder to afford school, so they're making it easier and easier to get money from these private groups that quote unquote work with the government, but I was still paying to Nelnet every month.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paid off, luckily.
Finally.
But
how long did it take you to pay off your student loans?
If I would have, so it was last year I paid them off, everything. it was about 16 years, which is far below the average for as much. I walked out of school with about $45,000 in debt, and there were some years there where I wasn't responsible. I probably could have paid it off sooner, but still 15, 16 years, that's still a very, very
Long
well, it's a
time.
long time, but it's
I
far less than
know.
other people. I
I
mean,
know. It blows my mind when people talk about they've been paying for their student loans for 25 years
yeah.
and they're still not paid off yet.
Nope.
It's just astonishing. 855 Civic. If you would ever like to join the conversation, leave a comment on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Cindy from Appleton is on the line. Good morning, Cindy. How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Well, I'm kind of disgusted with the Board of Regents for talking about raising tuition prices for our state, and I believe this is part of their plan to either close all the four-year institutions because nobody's going to be able to afford to go to them. They've already started with the two-year, or just to make everything privatized. It just is disgusting.
I do think, yeah, it's all about the push towards privatization, and we're seeing this in states all across the country, where they what vouchers now,
Ugh.
voucher schools, and giving out vouchers to voucher schools in order again, and it's happening here in Wisconsin, right, Cindy, to taking away money from private schools to encourage participation in private schools.
Yeah. It
Yep. But this is affecting, I mean, like I said, this is for the colleges mostly, and it's just another ploy to make it so people can't afford schools, so everything can either be privatized or closed.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Or bury you in debt.
Well, and now, thank you so much, Cindy, and really appreciate you listening as always. And now that now we're talking about this
Mhm.
so much more, and I
Yeah.
think people are what isn't this one of the reasons why our enrollment is down at four-year universities? Because kids don't want to come out with $100,000 worth of debt.
It's not worth it, especially in four-year schools. There's very few schools where you're gonna come out of the institution with a degree in your hands and get that job.
That high-paying job.
Yeah, your butt's going directly to grad school or to law school or to med school, higher learning of some sort. It's and I get it. I mean, that's and, not and I don't wanna discourage anyone from going to a four-year school, but, man, we've talked about it a lot, especially in the last, like, 3, 4 months. Don't sleep on those trade schools. Those
Absolutely.
those apprentice jobs
Yes.
that'll get you, those are some of the places where you can still get a pension
Yep.
if you get a good enough employer. So, I think we're starting to see that as well, and some kids just saying, "You know what? I'm gonna do my own thing. What choice do I have?" And unfortunately, they point to us and older, and they say, "What choice did you give us? Because you've made it more expensive, you made it more difficult, and schooling isn't where and I can't buy." I don't understand fully what millennials and younger are going through, but it just seems like a constant everyday uphill battle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From buying a car to buying a home to
Yeah.
even finding a place to rent. Yeah, it's tough.
Yep.
We're going to switch gears a little bit because I did want to talk about this as we're talking about President Biden being in Madison today, and we will have extended coverage across Civic Media when he begins to speak. And I'm pretty sure that the Devils are going to be there this afternoon, so we'll have lots of eyes on the ground in Madison when President Biden appears. But one of his challengers, Robert Kennedy Jr., the independent candidate, said on Friday, if elected, he will appoint a special counsel to investigate how prosecutors handled the cases related to the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. He also said Friday there was, quote, little evidence of a true insurrection, and also falsely claimed the protesters at the Capitol carried no weapons. We have talked about this many times. I watched
Mhm.
it happen in real time.
Yeah.
I saw people breaking windows with shields that they took from Capitol police officers. I saw people beating Capitol police officers with flagpoles
Yeah.
and other things that they were using as weapons. And the fact that he can come out and say that this this was not violent. It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years, and you're just going to investigate this now, RFK Jr. What have you been doing?
And also, why are you making such an incorrect statement? I mean,
because he thinks he's obviously playing to a certain base.
He's trying to get both sides. He's trying to get those liberals that are tired, who don't like Joe Biden. It almost sounds like he's trying to get Trumpers who are sick of Trump, or former Trumpers, if you will, because if he sows the seeds of doubt about January 6th, there's a lot of Trump supporters who, might go to him if Trump becomes too extreme, or if Trump can't run. If Trump is not allowed on the ballot for whatever reason, which I don't think it will be the case, I think he will be on the case. But and another thing he said that the January 6th defendants were activists who are stripped of their rights, and then they retracted it.
Yeah, because the internet blew up when he called them activists.
I'm going to reiterate something we talked about a while ago. We were making fun of his anti-vax stance and his. Well, we weren't making fun of his anti-vax stance. We were making fun of the fact he wanted to pick Aaron Rodgers as his running mate.
Yeah,
that was just stupid. And a caller phoned in and said, I think you're really you're making fun of him, and I think he's got some great policies. And then I went on his website and I saw, some interesting thoughts there
that you agreed with.
Yeah, some real down-to-earth policies about the environment, about housing, about racism in this country that I don't disagree with, but I don't know how much he actually believes in this stuff, because none of it's actually real. It's just all words on a website. And then you come out and say something like they were activists who have been stripped of their constitutional liberties. No, Bob Kennedy, they were trying to overthrow our constitutional liberties. That's what they were trying to do.
They were calling to hang Mike Pence.
Yeah.
They built a scaffold.
Yeah.
More than 1,000 people have been charged in the attack, including 10 on gun-related charges. Hundreds of others have been convicted and sentenced. These were not peaceful protesters. The people who were genuinely, I think, just caught up in it, I don't think they're the ones who are in prison. We've gone down a list of some of the people who are serving time, and we'll do this again before the election, just as a reminder. More information about Bobby Kennedy Jr. on the other side. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
She can't hurt. She don't mean no harm. She just don't know what else to do about it. Jason.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Cal B on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join the conversation. Call or text at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. Coming up after the 10:30 news, Jim Temmer from the Better Business Bureau will be joining us to talk about tax scams. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, you have until next Monday. And he's got some tips on what to look out for and be suspicious of so you don't get ripped off.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Which terrifies me.
It's not a good thing.
No.
It's
Has
not
that ever happened to you?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I've been using the same tax prep guy for 35 years.
Yeah.
And one year we filed and someone had already filed and they got a really nice refund. I did not. So every year now I get a special tax ID number because it got hacked.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a pain in the neck. It's really,
Dang. Okay.
I know. You got to be careful. We were talking about RFK Jr. right before the break on Friday, got into a little bit of hot water, saying that the January 6th insurrectionists were activists. And then, of course, came the walk back after there was all kinds of blowback against that. He still says, though, if president, he will appoint a special counsel to investigate whether prosecutorial discretion was abused for political ends in this case, and I will right any wrongs that we discover. So far, more than 1,265 defendants have been charged across almost all 50 states and Washington. They have sentences for more than 460 people, hundreds of others sentenced for lesser offenses, either to home detention or probation. But what I don't, again, understand about RFK Jr. is he keeps saying, I need more information about this. I need to investigate this further. Did you not watch the testimony before the January 6th committee with Michael Fanone and the other officers who were there being attacked by those people? You didn't watch any of that. You just kind of skated for the last 3 years. This never crossed your vision, or you never thought about it until now.
That is the classic response of people who have nothing to back. It's like so many times, I need to look into that. Why didn't you look into it before you said anything?
Right.
You look like a fool. And if you are a fan of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bob Kennedy, whatever we're calling him now, Bob to the Jr., what is it about him you like? Honestly, that's what I want to know. I mean, because Joe Biden, he's old. Yes, he's old. There's no getting over it.
So is Trump.
Joe Biden, it maybe not your cup of tea, but he's certainly better than two guys who think that the January 6th events was not that bad.
A peaceful protest.
Yeah. It just befuddles me. I'm done with that. It's like, I need to look into more.
Well, yeah.
Cool.
And I think you need to look into more whether or not RFK Jr. is actually a Democrat, because now that's what No Labels is out. They weren't actually able to find a candidate to run, so they have completely shuttered their operations, I understand.
Yep.
I saw something over the weekend that said that two of the main donors to one of Trump's super PACs are also supporters of RFK Jr.'s super PACs. So he's getting money from the same people who are supporting Donald Trump. And we're going to play a little clip from a woman. This is Rita Palma. She's the New York State Director for RFK Jr.'s campaign, talking about her strategy in New York State. This is kind of important, folks. Take a listen.
And we all know how that works, right? 270 wins the election. If you don't get to 270, if nobody gets to 270, then Congress picks the president. So who are they going to pick? Who are they going to pick? If it's a Republican Congress, they'll pick Trump. So we're rid of Biden either way. Does everybody follow that? Okay.
Yay. He is there to be a spoiler. RFK Jr. is there to take votes away from President Biden.
Yeah, and and really when it comes down to it, those who are disappointed or lackluster on Biden, and you're thinking about voting for RFK Jr., you're being taken.
Yes,
your vote
scammed.
Your vote will mean nothing. And okay, fine. If you are the person who walks down the road who does fit into all those categories, you are skeptical on vaccination, skeptical on January 6th. You are everything his website says, fine, vote for him. He won't be president. You'll be disappointed because it's either going to be Joe Biden or even worse, it's going to be Donald Trump.
Yes.
But this whole, what almost seems like a conspiracy now to bring Kennedy in to make him relevant enough, because the same thing's happening to him that happened to Trump. We were like, Bobby Kennedy Jr., who cares?
He's not serious.
And now he's not going away, and he's making more noise, and he's saying the right things to embolden the right people. And Joe Biden, unfortunately, is not going to take the bait. He's going to keep doing the work he needs to do. He doesn't puff his chest unless it's the State of the Union. Then you don't cross him. But he's going to look weak because he's not answering these guys who are pounding the pavement saying crazy things.
And they are crazy things.
Yes.
It was not a peaceful protest on January 6th.
It was not people taking a tour. It was not any of those things.
And staying between the ropes.
These were traitors. These were treasonous individuals. One of them serves in Congress right now. Derek Van Orden.
Oh, that's right.
He was there.
He was there. He took pictures. And he's very proud of the fact that he was there.
Yep.
He said he did not go into the Capitol.
I don't care.
Right. That's what he says. He did not go into the Capitol, so he didn't break any rules. But yeah, he was very happy to be there.
I love it when people like that get like, I didn't break any rules. Oh, that's therein lies the problem.
One other quick thing I just wanted to throw in here. This is again from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. After Donald Trump was in Green Bay, was that last week?
Yeah.
Two friends attended from Black Creek. They said it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They have been Trump supporters since 2016. They believe Donald Trump's faith aligns with theirs. One of them said, quote, "He's anointed from God," unquote.
All right.
I'm sure there's no way to counter that. I'm sure there's no way to point out previous behaviors that would, at least to my definition of Christianity, would not fall under that umbrella.
He is a broken Messiah. And he's in need of saving. He's not perfect.
He's an imperfect vessel.
Exactly.
He's an imperfect
vessel. He's like us humans. We can't be God, Jane, so we find our faith and our strength and ourselves within the Trumpalump, Donald Jonald. He is here to save us, save this country. Buy his Bible, only $59.95. Unless his stock goes down further, then we're probably going to slash prices to sell more Bibles.
Yeah, Truth Social isn't doing so well.
No.
It's down to like $37 today. All right, news is on the way next. And when we return, we're going to talk about tax scams with the Better Business Bureau. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Preach to me. Just a baby in this business of love. I'm a mover, I shake.
Good morning, and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin coming to you live from our studio in sunny downtown Waukesha. You can always join the show. Call or text at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842, or leave a comment on the live stream if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. It is tax time. It is next Monday, April 15th. That is the deadline. And as always, and it makes me sad to say this, but I think it's really important that people know that there are people who will take advantage of you.
What?
I know, it's shocking. And that's why we have our guest. He is the CEO of the Better Business Bureau. Jim Temer is our guest. Good morning, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jane. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. So if people haven't filed yet and they're still in the process of compiling everything for their taxes, what are some of the number one scams that folks should look out for?
Well, first you got to think about how scams work, right? A scammer wants you to feel a certain way. So you're either really upset, really happy, really scared. So you act out thinking, right? They don't want you to think through clearly. So one thing they're going to do is you could get that famous call from the IRS stating, you owe us money and you haven't paid yet. You haven't paid from last year. Forget about this year. And they'll have badge numbers and they'll say how official it is. And then they may even follow up with a email directly to you, and anyone can copy and paste the logo of the IRS. So then that's the one where they're going to ask you to pay in a non-traditional way, right? If you ever get a call saying you have to pay us in, wire us money or a prepaid gift card, Uncle Sam does take our money, but I don't think he wants it in a prepaid gift card.
I love that so much, Jim. It's like, give me a gift card from Bed Bath and Beyond because my wife of the IRS agent needs to use that, and then we're good,
Right. But again, if you happen to be in the right frame of mind and you're worried about it in the first place, or another one they do is say, hey, this is the IRS. You know what? You made a mistake. We went through and you actually are getting a bigger refund, or you're getting a refund. We just need to know your banking routing information and account number and social security number to verify this, and then we'll put it in your bank. So the scammers get that information, and it's by bank account, and they can now steal your identity, and they can do all sorts of stuff. Speaking of identity theft, people sometimes wonder, what was my social security number? I can change all my passwords and this and that. Scammers will get your social security number, and very early on, they will put in a tax return, say that they moved, they'll use your name, your social security number, come up with some fake numbers. Maybe they know where you work, maybe they don't. And they'll then put that return in early. And if you're getting a refund, they get the refund. And you won't even know about it till you put your return in and you get a notice from the IRS saying, we already have a return from you.
That's interesting that you say that, Jim, before you joined us, because I mentioned this. This happened to me about 10 years ago, and I've used the same tax prep guy for decades. And he put my return in, and he said, somebody already got a nice return. And so now every year I get a special tax ID filing number.
Yep. You can do that every year. That's what you should do. Get that number from the IRS. They can mail it to you, whatever it is. Anything you can do to make sure, and it's a little late this year to get in early, but if you can, get it in early. That's another way to prevent that scam from happening. Tax returners as well. There's a tax scam for those folks too that you got to look out for. They'll get an email from a new client saying, hey, I would like you to do my taxes, and here's all my information in an Excel spreadsheet. Well, they open that up, it downloads some malware into their files, giving all their client information to the scammer. So then the scammer has, can put in everybody's tax returns early, but also has all their personal information to go take out loans, to do whatever they want to do. So that's when we try and warn tax preparers about. But you're right. Even if you know somebody, you trust them, they're good, scams like this can happen.
We have a text from Tom in LA who says the IRS will never contact you by phone ever. Is that correct, Jim?
Their first contact with you will not be by phone. They're not going to call you in the middle of the night, saying cops are coming to your house. They can call you, and they do. This changed a few years ago, but the first contact will always be through the mail. You will always get the letter stating what's going on. And they will follow up with a phone call. Now, up until a few years ago, that was true. They wouldn't call you. But now first contact is always by mail. And after that, they're going to call you. But you know what? They're not going to be demanding immediate payment, or you're going to be arrested. They will talk through.
I'm sorry, Jim, you froze just there for a second. What did you want? What were you saying?
I was just saying the IRS, if you're talking to them on the phone, they'll answer questions for you. They'll work with you. They aren't going to be demanding you pay now or you're going to jail.
Yeah.
And they're certainly not going to ask you for Bed Bath and Beyond prepaid gift cards.
No, maybe Bass Pro Shops, but not Bed Bath and Beyond.
Okay, well, now I know I'm getting both of you for your birthdays.
Although, again, that is BBB with Bed Bath and Beyond. But
that's true.
This is sort of a off the side question, for Jane too, and you can answer this as well. If you are the victim of some sort of scam with the IRS, and say someone does file in your name before you get to, is there recourse? Like, do you have to file with the government to say this was incorrect, you took the wrong person, I am this person, and do you get your money, or do you lose it? Because they're the scammer committed the crime, they made a mistake, and you're sitting here holding nothing. I feel like, if anything, you are owed something. So is there recourse?
But are you owed it from the scammer, or are you owed it from the party, that also already paid one time? That is to be adjudicated in a court of law, but the IRS will work with you. I mean, they want these things reported. I can't say that they're going to give you all your money back or give you another refund for it. But all of these online scams, as we know, they're everywhere. And FBI, because these things are so hard to trace. They're, you can have an IP address anywhere in the world, and you can change it to another IP address. And when they call you on the phone, these scammers, you look at your caller ID, it can say Internal Revenue Service. It can say Brown County Sheriff's Department. It can say whatever they want, because those things can be scammed as well. They call it spoofing. So if you get it and you see on your caller ID, it says Internal Revenue Service, and they're telling you something, again, you're more apt to believe them. Or if they send you then after that an email with the same information in it looking very official. Remember, when you go to any government website like IRS, whatever it is, it ends in .gov.
Right.
Not IRS.com or not IRSGOV.com. It's going to end in a .com. So again, scammers will try any of that stuff. And if you get an email and you put your cursor over the link might say irs.gov, but if you rest your cursor over it, it's going to give you the actual link where you're going.
You can also do that with their email address too. It might say like so-and-so of the IRS. If you drop down their email address, it's going to be a series of letters and numbers, and it's just going to be gobbledygook. And I know that because I fell victim to a USPS scam once.
That's right.
I mean, you're never too smart. You're never too aware. Sometimes you're just not even paying attention. And it's Christmas time, and the USPS says, "Hey, we didn't package your packages." You got to be very vigilant on all this stuff. And I don't want to place victimhood on a big group of people, but when we had Lisa Schiller on earlier, we did talk about these scams going up against elderly people. Can you speak on that, Jim?
Yes, you bet. Elderly people, the scams, they tend to lose more money, but we do study after study, and the number one group in North America to be scammed are those 18 to 24 years old.
Really?
Wow.
Employment scams, all sorts of download scams, fake ticket scams, because everything is done on the phone. Everything is done electronically. Older folks, again, can fall victim to home improvement scams, romance scams, investment scams. Boy, crypto investment scams are huge. You all know LinkedIn, right? Someone will go on LinkedIn and create a fake profile. I handled investments for, Berkshire Hathaway, and I did this and I did that, and I've got this glowing resume and I've got all this stuff. Then I may contact you through your social media or some other way saying, oh, crypto is going through the ceiling. I can, triple your money. And here's my LinkedIn page, to build up that credibility. That's why they pretend to be from the government. They pretend to be experts, down to the fact of the guy that knocks on your door and says, "Hey, I was re-blacktopping your neighbor's driveway down the block, and I see that you need some too. I got some extra hot mix here in my truck." He's the expert then. So he's going to be telling you what you need. And boy, I can do it for cash if you pay half and you pay up front. You give the guy the $400, he's saying, "I'm going to go get the rest of my crew. You'll never see him again." So they try and be some sort of expert where if you question them, they make you feel like an idiot.
And we're polite enough. We're unfortunately, and especially in Wisconsin, I just think we're polite enough. We don't want to offend anybody, right? We don't want to call. We don't want to call.
And
people
again,
out.
I'd say more so older people than younger people.
There's nothing impolite by saying no, thank you.
Right. What I tell people, again, especially senior groups, when I talk to them, is don't answer the door, don't answer the phone, delete the email, unless you know who it is. Simple as that. Don't answer. If it's, they can always leave you a message. I doubt that a scammer would be able to spoof, Aunt Millie's phone number, so when Aunt Millie's calling you, but they might be able to. But you don't have to. You don't owe it to anybody to answer that phone if you don't know who they are, or answer the door if you don't know who they are. And unfortunately, that's where our society is going.
Jim Temmer is our guest. He's the CEO and president of the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin, and we're talking about tax scams in particular, but other scams in general.
I was just going to say, if you are out there, and I can't speak to iPhone users, but one thing that's great with my phone, I have a Google Pixel. It comes with, on the Android, spam filters for phones, for your phone calls, as well as a thing where if someone calls me and my phone doesn't recognize them, but they're automatically not counted as spam, it will send them to a identifier prompt. Will say, "Who are you and what are you calling about?" And then they have to leave their name and their business, and I decide whether or not I'm going to pick it up. If you have an Android phone, try to employ that software, especially for, you're saying for older folks. That way, someone, if it is Aunt Millie and she's calling from Uncle Roger's house and it's all, you don't know what's going on, she can identify herself. So just another way of protecting yourself from scam calls.
It's just, it's so different though, Jim, because I'm of a certain age, and you never let the phone ring. Good heavens, you were missing out on something if you didn't answer the phone. You picked up every single phone call. It could be the boy you had a crush on or something really critically important, like where's the party tonight? So it's hard to get out of that habit, though, of I'm going to miss something important if I don't answer the door, if I don't pick up the phone, if I don't answer the call. But we have to recondition ourselves now, right?
I would say, especially during this upcoming election year, the phones will, and now here in Wisconsin, a battleground state, the phone's going to be ringing off the hook continually. And political parties and nonprofits don't fall under the no call list. And scammers don't care about the no call list. They're already breaking laws, and they're probably calling from somewhere on another side of the planet. So do not call lists are great, but they don't prevent any of this other stuff from happening.
Yeah. And the moment you block them, they're going to get a different number to call you from. And same with the emails. I mean, it's an inconvenience of technology. And luckily for my generation and younger, we don't, if the boy who's crushing on you likes you, he's going to text you.
All right. We're going to keep Jim with us for another segment. If you have a question for Jim, you can call or text at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. And I have another question for you, Jim, when we come back, about trying to scam the scammers. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm just a baby in this business of love. Ba-doo, 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 bye. Do ba 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 bye. Bow wow wow bye. Abu ba da ba da la ba la ba la boo bye. Abu ba boo ba bow bow. Ba-doo 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 bow. Ba-doo 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 bow.
If you wanna run away with me, I know a galaxy and I can take you for a ride. I had a premonition that
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Cal B, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join the conversation. Call or text 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon is ruining. Our guest is the CEO and president of the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin. Jim Temer is here, and we've been talking about tax scams and tax preparer scams. The deadline to file your taxes next Monday on April 15th. My question before we went to break, Jim, one of my sisters loves to try and play with people who call her phone. And she'll pretend she doesn't speak English. She tries all kinds of wacky things. And I know that this gives her a great sense of pleasure, and I can appreciate that. I just don't know how valuable that is.
Well, if you like that kind of thing, we actually have an employee that has posted all sorts of videos on YouTube. Her name is Julie, and it's called Julie Calls the Scammers. And she'll play along with them. But the idea, I mean, it's kind of humorous when you can hear what the people say, but it's to educate folks on what these scammers can talk to you about, what they can say, what kind of questions they ask, how they avoid certain questions, or they can, turn something around. So it's interesting, but it's also informational. If you have the time on your hands, I've talked to people who say they do the same thing, and they figure that if they can keep a scammer on the phone for 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes they aren't trying to scam somebody else.
Right.
A lot of people don't have that kind of time. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But again, a great way to not being scammed is don't have interaction with the scammer. If there's any chance at all that they may be able to convince you that this is legitimate, you're going to be in trouble, because the longer you are with them, the more, they may try and convince you otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. I can certainly see that happening. But that sounds like a really good thing to do with, like, especially your older relatives, to watch those videos. You said it's Julie Calls the Scammers.
Yeah, it's something like that. But and we've got all sorts of videos out there on YouTube for that. And we mentioned older people a few times. To destigmatize scams is really important, because nobody, if they're living alone and they're older, wants to admit that they've been taken advantage of, let alone, I mean, nobody does.
Sure.
And these are real crimes. People will take your money, and then you feel unsafe. It's not the same as, strong-armed robbery, but you are victimized. And people feel very ashamed. They feel it's their fault that they were scammed. So when you're talking to anybody, especially maybe those living alone, say, you know what? If you ever get approached by somebody, if it's on the phone or whatever, give me a call. Vet this with somebody else. Talk to a friend or relative. Because again, the more information and the more light of day that comes on these scams, the less you're going to fall for them. And if you are the victim of a scam, don't make somebody feel bad about it. Say, oh, how can I help you not to fall for that kind of thing again? Because millions of people are losing billions of dollars every year coming out of our legitimate economy here in the U.S.
Jim Temer is our guest. He is the CEO and president of the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin. I know one of the latest scams that has really been very lucrative for the bad people are these fake romances. And you had kind of mentioned that when we got started, and talking about people being ashamed of being taken. And that seems to be a big thread in that particular scam.
This one and the grandparent scam is both of which I find heartbreaking. For a romance scam, you meet someone online, they're going to right away, if it's a scam, want you off of that site, because those sites are monitored, those dating sites. So they're going to be like, oh, why don't we just text? Why don't we email? So they want to get you off of there right away. They may send you small gifts, send you trinkets, and usually they're, again, out of the country, they're somewhere else. There's a reason why you can't meet. Or, I want to come meet you, but I don't have enough money for plane fare. Well, you send them the money. My grandma is sick. I broke my leg. It's excuse after excuse. And this stuff plays on people's psyche so much that even when they figure out it's a scam, they can't believe it. They still want it to be true. And we've had cases where the scammer will be confronted and they'll say something like, oh, this was a scam at first, but then I really got to know you and I fell in love with you. And, I could never hurt you. I mean, stuff that is scary. And if you're lonely and you think you found someone and they're telling you, they're feeding you things that make it seem like it's a real connection, you're in too deep.
Yeah.
That is so heartbreaking,
Yeah.
Jim. That just breaks my heart.
And if I can quickly on the grandparent scam, if you've heard of it,
Yeah.
hi grandma, this is Jim. I'm in Mexico. I got arrested. I need $5,000. Don't tell my dad. Everybody's voice is out there somewhere these days on TikTok or somewhere. AI can take your voice and create it to say whatever the scammer wants in your voice. So they can call grandma and say, in my voice, this is Jim. I just got in a car wreck. I'm in India. I need cash and I need it now.
That's a perfect segue into a text we just got from Lynn from Oconomowoc. She says, if you answer your phone and engage, don't risk that. Don't risk that. They're going to record and use AI to copy your voice. So people are aware of that. And just, I mean, my mom even told me about a scam where they just get you to say yes or confirmed so they can use that to do other things with your voice. So you go on.
I was going to say, we call that the "can you hear me" scam. You answer the phone, you say hello, and a recorded voice says, "I'm sorry, can you hear me?" And you say, "Yes, I can hear you." Or they'll say, "Is this Jim Temer?"
Yeah.
And you go, "Yes, it is." And then they'll say that you bought whatever product it was, and we have it on a recorded line that you said yes. So that is correct.
Yeah.
And then how do you get out of that if something like that happens to you, Jim?
Well, if there's no money down and someone says you bought something, they're going to need a little more proof than that. At that point, let the scammer come after you. I would not forward any money to someone where that was a potential scam, and I never said I would buy it. They may threaten a lawsuit. Let them come.
Yep. That's one of the reasons why I don't engage with scammers on the phone. And for a while when I was getting text messages from scammers, I was being a smart aleck about it. And then I realized this isn't a good idea. So now when I see something, I get a lot of people asking me if I'm going to be late for our tennis match. So I just hit block and report because they don't know me then.
And sometimes they just want a response to see if it's a live line. They're sending it out to millions of numbers.
Yeah.
Jim Temer, the CEO and president of the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin. We have to have you back, Jim. This was so informative and heartbreaking, but knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power.
Well, enjoy sunny Waukesha.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. News is coming up next. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network.
Baby, let me take you for a ride. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. I got you. Moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you.
fungi are mushrooms. Usually wood, but sometimes even the mortar or concrete in buildings, period.
Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenhoff, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. If you ever want to join the conversation, call or text at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842, or leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. It is Total Eclipse Day. We'll be talking about the eclipse and things going on in our area coming up right after the 11:33 news. Right now, they're very excited to have our next guest with us. If you are a weather nerd or a weather geek or just a fan of weather, you're going to want to stick around for this. This is your opportunity, folks, to get involved with weather. Kevin Erb is the program manager for the Conservation Professional Training Program at the UW-Madison Division of Extension. Good morning, Kevin. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Very happy to have you with us to talk about Cocoa Raz. What are Cocoa Raz?
Well, we're not talking Cocoa Puffs, the breakfast cereal. What we're talking we're talking about the cooperative rain, snow, and hail network, which is an opportunity for individuals across the country really to get involved, to be a part of documenting the climate and helping improve the accuracy of weather forecasts, all by putting up one of the official rain gauges or doing some other type of very easy citizen science type of work.
I mean, it's not like you're expecting people to take time off work to do these things for you. This is something that any of us could do, right?
Exactly. We have everything from schools in Wisconsin here where the students look once a day at the rain gauge and take 60 seconds to document in the app how much rain. They'll take a ruler or a yardstick out, measure how much snow fell. There's people that are 80 and 90 years old that have been documenting rain all of their lives because they're farmers, so they just have that interest. And by putting up one of the more official rain gauges, because we want everybody to be consistent, it's really a neat project that is fairly low cost and for people really to make a difference.
What's so interesting, and I got this from an article in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel from Madeline Heim. The Cocoa Raws, as you said, the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network has been doing this for more than 20 years. I had
Yep.
no idea this was even in existence. So there are 10,000 plus observers, including close to 800 in Wisconsin.
Correct. In fact, there's more than 20,000 observers in the country, but we have about 10,000 that on a daily basis will report either the rain or snow that they got, or sometimes more importantly, report that they got nothing. So this morning I had 1/100th of an inch here just outside of my office in Green Bay, but the 2 previous days to that I had nothing. And so we like to say, be a zero hero. It's important to report when you got nothing as well.
Well, it is so interesting because you can be where you are in Green Bay and someone can be 10 miles outside of maybe even less, right? 5 miles further away and they get rain and you get
Yep.
nothing.
Well, it's not only that, but it's particularly we get into this time of year where you get these pop-up thunderstorms and throughout the summer, literally you can be a block apart, a quarter mile, 5 miles or whatever, and there can be a dramatic difference. I mean, I grew up on a small farm in Illinois, and there were times where we got rained out and the neighbors didn't. And we were working in fields right next door to each other. And so there's a lot of variability in precipitation, and being able to document that really helps the Weather Service improve their forecast models, not only for urgent events like floods, but also more long term, kind of looking at where things are with the climate.
I mean, isn't this where we get some of our like drought data from?
Exactly. And that's one of the interesting things. So last year was the first year that Wisconsin was documented at the severe level of drought that we were, particularly in southwest Wisconsin in the driftless area. And it was because we finally had enough density of people that were reporting rain, or in last year's case, the lack of rain, that we were able to actually document that, yes, Wisconsin is in a severe drought. And so having that information, I think, is really critical. But for me, one of the exciting things, Jane, is that once I've got, as a citizen, 100 data points in the system, then I can become part of the official climate record. So researchers from around the world then can use that data in their forecast modeling, in trying new things and looking at predicting drought. And so it just takes 100 days in a sense to have yourself as part of that. And there are people around the state that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 or more years. And so having that type of climate record where you can say, I'm documenting what's happening out here, is a real point of pride for a lot of people.
I bet. And I would think for people who have been doing that for that long, Kevin, if they go out of town, it's like their neighbors know they have to check the rain gauge now because this is part of their daily routine.
Well, that's one of the interesting things too, is that we know that people travel, they take vacations. Mine is here at my office, and I'm not coming out here every day on Saturday and Sunday to check the gauge. But what I'm doing is then going in and putting in a multiple day report. And so we're still gathering that information, even if you can't check the rain gauge or can't report it every day. We have a number of snowbirds that are seasonal reporters north of Highway 29 in northern Wisconsin that during the summer months when they're living their normal life in Wisconsin, they're reporting here. And when they go to Florida for the winter or somewhere else, they're actually reporting down there as well.
Oh, cool. Kevin Erb is the manager of the Conservation Professional Training Program that is through UW-Madison's Division of Extension. And we're talking about CoCoRaHS, also called the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. Do you have shirts? Because you should definitely have merch that says CoCoRaHS on it.
No, we don't have shirts that I'm aware of for the North American Manure Expo, which is another event I'm involved with. We do have souvenir T-shirts, but not for the Rain Gauge Network.
I mean, I'm cuckoo for CoCoRaHS. Just writes itself.
It does. It's a natural.
Probably copyright infringement too, Greg.
Little details, Kevin.
I don't worry about those things.
According to this article, again, that I found in the Journal Sentinel, there are some Wisconsin counties that only have a handful or fewer observers. So, Kevin, where would you really like to see more of these weather observers? Which counties in particular, do you know?
Well, right now it's particularly some of the northern counties. I mean, when we look at the map, and anybody can go online to the CoCoRaHS website, and you can look at and see real time where people have reported this morning how much they got overnight and through yesterday. And so you can kind of see fairly quickly there where the holes are in terms of our daily reporters. Some people only report when it rains, other people are reporting every day, even those zeros. But like we said earlier, Jane, we've got some holes that we really need to fill, but having two people a mile apart really helps refine the resolution of our weather forecast. Because if you go on the National Weather Service website right now, what you see is that those forecasts are down to about 1.25 by 1.25 grids. And so we now have very good accuracy down to that level, but it could be better. When I first started here in Wisconsin almost 30 years ago, we were happy with 5 mile by 5 mile grids. But now, with the improved accuracy, with the data that's out there, you can have the GPS on your phone pick up the forecast if you're at the state fair or you're at American Family Field or down on the lakeshore. It's going to pick up that GPS location and give you a more accurate forecast based on where you are. And data like this really helps refine and improve those forecasts, because if you ever look at the National Weather Service website, you can look at the weather radar and it will do a precipitation summary, which is an estimate as far as how much rain actually fell. But the farther away you get from those radar sites, the less accurate that is, because of how that radar beam has to angle upward. And obviously, if there's a major thunderstorm between you and the radar station, it's not going to be as accurate because part of those beams are being intercepted. So having these individual citizens out there going out once a day, taking 60 seconds and documenting, hey, here's how much rain I got, can really make a difference to improve weather forecasting.
Well, that's pretty remarkable that we have it down to like a mile and a half. I mean, another decade, and you literally will be able to get a forecast for your house.
I think there's some people that think it's already that good, but I think there's also people that look at a weather forecast and say, well, they forecasted a foot of snow and we only got 2 inches. We're still with a very imprecise science when it comes to weather forecasting. And so the more data we have, the better off we are. Now, there's a lot of folks out there that have the backyard automated weather stations. And one of the things with some of those now is we can tie those into the National Weather Service through the CWOP program. And the challenge with the automated stations is we get more intense rain events, we get some of these thunderstorms. They're not as accurate as the old-fashioned gauges like this.
No kidding.
But they can also give us real-time data. So last year we picked the East River watershed in Brown County. This year we picked the Spring Brook watershed up in Langlade County. We said we really want to focus on getting a half a dozen to a dozen new people reporting there. And so up in Langlade County, we're talking to a few folks that are looking at tying their automated stations in. The neat thing about the automated weather stations that people have is the Weather Service can look at that real time. That's really going to improve flood forecasting, because if we know exactly how much has fallen, that's important.
Yeah, it's certainly as far as predicting, how the water is going to move downstream and who it's going to be affecting and when it's going to hit flood stage for sure.
I just wanted to say really quick on the live stream, Sherry from Horicon, who is an avid listener and my 3 headlines in a lie partner, she says she wants to sign up to observe the weather. How do we do that? Kevin, do you want to talk about that? And also, just so you know, if you are interested, the article as well as the sign up on the website will be in the show notes today. So if you want to do that, head over to civicmedia.us, click on our show, click on today's show, and you'll be able to take that link.
Yep, it's a very good question. We direct people to the COCORAH's website, which is COCORAHS.org. On there, you're going to get to a map where you can click and see who's reported today. And you can zoom down to a very fine area and take a look at that. But then on the left-hand side is a Join Us link, and that's where you can sign up. The official rain gauges themselves are about $42. We find that they're much more accurate than what you might find at the hardware store. So for the rain side of things, we do ask that everybody buy one of the official gauges. But folks that want to measure snow or hail, there's low-cost options. And like I said earlier, Jane, we have people that just report hail or just report snow because that's what they want to do.
Kevin Erb is the UW Extension Conservation Professional Training Program through the UW-Madison Division of Extension. Such an interesting chat, Kevin. Thank you so very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. We'll get all that information in the show notes. Stay with us. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network.
She gives me, and she starts to cry. They're playing basketball. We love that basketball. They're playing basketball.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in sunny, beautiful downtown Waukesha. It is really nice out, you guys.
It's supposed to be like 67 degrees.
It's gorgeous. It's a little breezy, but it certainly finally feels like spring, and at least from looking at the skies right now for the partial eclipse that we're going to be able to see, because I think it's going to be around 50% for most of Wisconsin. We're going to talk about that a little bit more after the bottom of the hour news. But beautiful, beautiful day. If you want to join the show, call, text 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream wherever you're watching. Bless you.
Thank you.
On Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. I watched women's basketball yesterday.
You watched a sports?
I know. I watched a sports ball event.
I can't believe. What?
I know. I watched the Iowa-South Carolina game.
Yeah.
South Carolina came out on top 87-75. I have to say, they never stopped moving. It was I know this happens in basketball.
I mean, that's kind of how it has to work in basketball.
They're running back and forth. They're running back. But man, oh man, that was a high-powered game. It really was, and so impressive. Calvin, did you watch any of it?
I didn't watch any of the championship game, but I did watch some of the games on Friday night, the Final Four games. Yeah. South Carolina, they were definitely the best team in the country. They were dominant.
And Caitlin Clark, who plays for Iowa, even said that too. That's the thing I love listening to these young women in the women's NCAA championship and the March Madness, is how in awe they are of each other and the praises and the flowers they're giving each other. And in the face of people trying to make them bitter enemies, it's like they love each other. They respect
each other. Yeah, they respect each other. Final score against South Carolina over Iowa, 87-75. And what I think is really impressive, and the ratings aren't in yet, but Friday night's game that you had mentioned, Calvin, the face-off between UConn and Iowa, it had an audience of 14.2 million viewers.
Yeah.
That's big. That's a new high mark for women's basketball, according to ESPN via Nielsen data. The turnout topped the short-lived ratings for a women's college basketball game of 12.3 million that was set on April 1st. And so I heard some roundup this morning about they had more viewers than like the last 4 Super Bowls combined or something. It was insane.
Terry Bell and Pat were talking about that this morning.
Thank you. Yes.
More than I think it was Indianapolis 500, more than Super Bowls, more than World Series. I mean, it's undeniable how exciting basketball is. I mean, it's not my sport of choice, but I understand why people love it. And these young women, especially at the collegiate level, bringing that many people to,
it's astonishing, and it's great.
It's fantastic, and I love it, and I'm here for it.
And I guess in watching the difference between professional basketball and college basketball always seems more intense. It always seems like there's more action. Less wasting of seconds, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think I personally like the NBA game a lot more than college game. I think they're just better. They're smoother. They're they miss less shots. I think the part of the reason college basketball seems so intense is that they're missing more shots. They're not as good as handling the ball, so there's more loose balls for them to chase after than there is.
I suppose.
I think it's because they're trying to prove something. They're trying to prove how, like they're working on winning the championships, getting the scholarship, keeping the scholarships, getting an NBA or WNBA contract, or some of them are just driven to win hard. I think it might be more intense, in my opinion. I don't disagree, Calvin. I think there's truth to that, but there's more intensity because they might be more. They have more to.
They're hungrier.
They're hungrier, more at stake. When you get the NBA, I get it. There's a lot of guys out there who are very, very competitive and they're going to play hard. But I'll watch NBA games and I'll be like, God, you don't care. You've got that check cleared already, didn't it? Whereas in college, it's not as much the same thing. It's more now. They can make money now, which is great. But yeah, they play hard and it's great. And yeah.
Well, it's interesting. When we were talking to J.R. Radcliffe last week, he essentially said, yeah, we're getting towards the end of the regular season now. So nobody's really putting on that much implied, I should say.
Yeah.
They don't have to put as much into it because when the playoffs start, it's a whole new season.
Yeah, I think that's a craziness, especially for the Bucks now. I mean, not to take it to the NBA, but one of the things we talked about this morning was the fact that the Bucks are on a losing streak too, and if they slip. But yeah, the college basketball is exciting.
Well, and it wasn't South Carolina. They were undefeated.
Yes,
right?
Undefeated.
The entire season. That's just remarkable.
You know who else was undefeated this year? The UW Madison Badgers women's hockey team.
Yes.
Undefeated.
Yes. And the volleyball team, I know they didn't come out on top.
No, but they still
did great. And they've been racking up huge numbers too, as far as audience goes.
And if I'm not mistaken, please, I 5 of the players from the Badgers women's hockey team are going to a national team.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing this overall, all over the place. Women's soccer, women's basketball, women's hockey, playing their hearts out and bringing in audience members and bringing in fans. And there are sports bars that are playing all women's sports, or are a bar that is all women's sports driven. I mean, I went to a bar in Kenosha yesterday, and both both channels had women's sports playing.
That's
And there was, and I know there were men's sports going on at the same time. It's ESPN. There's always sports happening.
Well, I just it delights. I just think it's delightful. I am so happy about this. I think it's great. It's great for the sports. It's great for our young girls to see these role models
Yeah.
and to see some of these, these 9-year-olds looking up to Angel
Yes.
Reese and Caitlin Clark and
Yes.
who is the one who's 6'7"? I think she's plays for South Carolina. She's gigantic.
I know who you're talking about, but now I can't remember.
She's
the name of
I
it.
mean, she's gorgeous, but she's enormous.
That's Camila Cardoso.
Yeah.
Uh,
6'7".
we got a text really quick here from Robert, listening on WMDX. He said pro sports games would be more exciting with less regular season games to make them worth more. I'll say that with the NBA, I'm sure. Not with the MLB. Give me more baseball.
You want more
I
baseball?
want 900 games a year. That's what I want. Please and thank you. Make that. Jane, you're in charge of radio. Make that a thing.
I make it so, Kelvin. We'll make it so. Yeah. News is coming up. Oh, just a reminder, make sure you download the Civic Media app.
Oh yeah.
It's free.
Oh, I thought it was cost money.
No, it's free, and you can get it wherever you get your apps, and that will give you the opportunity to listen to all of our stations all across the Civic Media radio network, no matter where you are. And then you can always call and text in directly from the app. So it's pretty snappy. All right. News is coming up next, and then we're talking all things Eclipse. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. Stay with us on the Civic Media radio network.
The ball, y'all. The pill. Oh, yeah, to the hoop.
upon a time there was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart.
Good morning. I hate that song.
Hello.
I hate that song. Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart. I hate that song.
Do you want to? Okay. Can you listen to the music? Not the lyrics, but can you listen to the music? If you want to see something really funny, and I'll put it in the show notes and I'll send it to you. There's a video for that song from the 80s. It's ridiculous. It's chaos. But a woman and a man wrote a song in that tune describing shot for shot what's happening in that video.
Oh, that sounds
And
hilarious.
when you listen to it, I almost fell over laughing. I was laughing so hard. And now this song is ridiculous to me because that's all I think.
And it was huge.
Oh my gosh.
It was huge. And I was in music radio. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, by the way. Thank you for joining us. I was in music radio when that song came out, and it's long. It's like 6.5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And which was kind of unusual for pop radio at the time. But we played it endlessly.
They didn't have a radio edit of that song?
No.
My goodness.
It just went on and on.
It's still going on right now.
She's still on and on and on. But yes, it's with the total eclipse day. We're not going to have another total eclipse in North America till like 2044.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
So when Bridget and I went to Louisville years ago, there was a total eclipse. There was an eclipse.
Okay.
I'm just going to call it an eclipse. When I went to Texas last October, there was an eclipse. Today, there's an eclipse. I always feel like they're always saying there's an eclipse, and it's the last time it's ever going to happen for forever. What are the differences I need to know?
Well, certainly there's a difference between a partial eclipse and a total eclipse.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time, and I can't pull this out of my head, but there is a path of totality across the United States.
Okay.
And that doesn't always happen. A lot of times we'll get a partial eclipse, but this is a total eclipse where if you are in the path and the weather is good,
yeah,
you should be able to see the entire moon, cover the entire sun to the point where it gets dark and you can see stars.
I'm just saying, Jane, if in a year or two someone says, "Are you ready for the eclipse?" I would be like, I was told not coming back till 2044.
Well, no, the total eclipse, but there are eclipses going on.
Now the backpedaling.
In perpetuity. I'm not backpedaling. One thing I did want to highlight before we get into how you can make your pinhole viewer, because someone sent that in as a question and said, "Don't tell me to Google it." So I'll actually tell you how to make one of those pinhole viewers.
I was hoping you'd tell them to Bing it.
if you don't have sunglasses. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh God.
From Georgia.
We were having such a good time.
On Friday. And just a reminder, on Friday, there was that earthquake in New York. From what I understand, it was the epicenter was pretty close to one of Donald Trump's golf courses, Bedminster.
Oh, no.
Marjorie Taylor Greene posting on Friday, quote, "God is sending America strong signs to tell us to repent. Earthquakes and eclipses and many more things to come. I pray that our country listens." She got dragged so hard. First of all, Community Notes immediately corrected that tweet. Monday's eclipse was predicted hundreds of years ago. It is not caused by contemporary actions. Earthquakes occur naturally and happen on average more than 30 times a day across the world, although many are too subtle to feel. Other commenters said, quote, "That eclipse really caught us off guard. Serious question, MTG. How do you manage to feed yourself?"
Yeah, that's total silence you're hearing, folks, because she has left us speechless.
Well,
welcome back to the show. We don't know what to say to her.
But then she did come back and she said, "Oh, now I'm getting mocked. All these people, you know, I'm getting mocked. And okay, fine, mock me. But those of us who are Christians know that God sends signs for us to interpret. Therefore, my question is, doesn't everyone get to interpret them then?
Yeah.
There's
No,
not
only
one. There's not just one interpretation. There could be numerous interpretations of what this means.
It sounds like you have to be a Christian, and not only that, you have to be a Christian like the Congresswoman herself. That's when you're allowed to have an opinion.
The direct pipeline.
Yes, indeed. You get to have the interpretation of the right, and I don't mean the party. I mean of the correct. So
good to know.
Yeah,
Good to
I
know.
just think it's because tectonic plates are shifting and things are happening, and I don't know, like God or nature. It's scary because either way, it's sending us a message.
Well, I guess my interpretation of that earthquake on Friday was Ivana's ticked.
Hey-o!
Just saying. Jeff from Caledonia is on the line. Good morning, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, hi there.
Hi.
Been listening to the show for 11 a long time. Yeah, when I was in grade school, I'm 75, so that tells you a little bit of how old we are. We used to do that, go out and have resets while the sun was going crazy. And just use a piece of cardboard and poke a hole in it and put it around your shoulder and have a piece of white paper underneath, and you see the eclipse, as it were.
You got it, Jeff.
See how easy that is?
Yep, you got it, Jeff. That is absolutely what they describe. There's an article in the Washington Post says get an empty cereal box on a white piece of paper or white cardboard, trace the bottom of the box, then clip out the traced rectangle from the paper, put it in the bottom of the open box. That will be the screen for the images of the eclipse to project onto. You cut 2 squares on the lid of the box, then tape it together. For 1 square, cover the hole in foil, tape it down, push a small nail through it. That's the lens that the sun's light will pass through. The smaller the hole, the sharper the image will be.
So when you put the piece of white paper in the box, the bottom of the box should still be intact.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's the top of the box that's going to be like the viewer.
If you can't do that, go to www.amazon.com.
It's kind of late.
I'm just kidding.
Because you did order our sunglasses, our solar eclipse glasses from there. And quite seriously, folks, don't look up at the sun.
Please don't look up.
Even if you have sunglasses, even if you have prescription sunglasses, don't do it.
Don't be funny about it.
Like someone I can think of who did that standing at the White House looked up directly at it. Don't do that because you can seriously damage your eyes.
He wasn't looking up at the sun. He was like, hey, those people think that guy sent me because he was pointing up. But yeah, it's not funny. Don't even squint your eyes.
No.
Don't take this.
Don't risk it. You only have 2 eyeballs.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, we're not warning you. We're telling you because we care.
Absolutely.
So,
I don't want anybody to get hurt. And yet I would still like everyone to be able to take part. From what I'm seeing, though, Wisconsin is only going to see about 50% of the peak coverage because we're not in the line of totality. And I talked to my friend who's in Texas yesterday, who's outside of Austin, because they're supposed to get pretty close to totality. And she said the weather forecast down there is terrible.
That just sounds so apocalyptic when you say it. We're getting the eclipse in totality.
It's supposed to be life-changing.
Yeah.
It really is. I have read accounts of people who have seen the total eclipse. It goes, the birds stop singing, everything goes quiet.
And we know how much you love birds.
I know. And you can see stars. There's actually a group who have bee monitors, honeybee monitors.
Yeah.
They are, because bees will change their behavior in the dark.
Yeah.
And so they have these little bee monitors for beekeepers all across the country who are in the line of totality to monitor what's going on in the hive when during the total solar eclipse. You don't think that's cool?
I think that's amazing. I think that's wonderful. I kind of wish I knew about it before right now when I'm just trying to think of all the jokes I'm trying to make, like monitor.
It's called the bee clips.
Oh God, I love that so much. If someone stands in front of me, like like Brian Kelly, fancy Brian Kelly stands in front of me. It's a G-Clips.
Fair enough.
Calvin, I'm funny, all right? He's yawning. He's literally yawning at the exact moment I said that. No, I got my glasses, and I plan on, wherever I am, I'm gonna stop, sit in the car hood, because I'll probably be out and about, and just kind of watch for a little bit and then get back to my day. But yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
There's a great compilation in today's Journal Sentinel, and we will put this link in the show notes so you can take a look at where this is going to happen. So in Platteville, you should see it from about 12:49 to 3:18. Richland Center, 12:50 to 3:18. Madison, 12. These are all within a minute or two. Madison again, 12:51 to 3:19. Same for Janesville. Here in Waukesha, 12:52 to 3:21.
That's a long time too.
Peak is at 2:07 when the moon covers 89% of the sun. Skywalkers in Waukesha can view the eclipse at 50% of maximum coverage at 1:33 and again at 2:42.
You just said Skywalkers.
Skywatchers.
Oh, darn it. I thought
it was an intentional Star Wars reference. Kenosha at 12:52 to 3:21 with the peak at 2:08. Milwaukee from 12:53 to 3:21, the peak also around 2:08. The eclipse at 50% maximum at 1:33 and again at 2:42. So it is a several hour process, but the peak again around 2:06 to 2:08 for most of it sounds like southeastern Wisconsin.
I'm really trying hard not to make that's amore joke. Because you said when the moon hits your eyes.
Like a big pizza pie?
That's amore. Now I want pizza. But yeah, no, it's gonna be really cool. And I feel like I heard someone say that schools aren't going to be taking part at all because of safety issues, that being able to secure glasses and whatnot.
And make sure kids are all wearing them properly.
I mean, that's very true. I at first I was like, oh, and then I'm like, nope, I get it.
And now that we've tried these glasses on, you literally cannot see anything.
You will be bumping into. I almost bumped into you. So, and I'm a full grown adult. I'm like 3 of those children.
So I guess I can understand that, but safety first.
Exactly.
Williams Bay, which is near Lake Geneva, Yerkes Observatory is having an event. The eclipse in Williams Bay will be about 90%. Only 10% of normal light for the sun hits the ground. So they are having some family fun events for eclipse watchers if you want to check that out. Albert Einstein once visited the Yerkes Observatory.
Prove it.
It says it. I found it on the internet.
I wanted to know what it felt like to be cantankerous and just, like conspiratorial. That's what they say. That's what they want you to believe, Jane, that he went there.
That he went there?
Yeah.
And that the moon is a real thing?
The moon isn't real. It's flat and made of cheese. Sorry.
Be safe today.
I drank a lot of coffee.
Be safe today.
Yes, please.
And just a reminder again, go to civicmedia.us anytime you want to revisit the show and see what we talked about. And Greg does a really good job of including articles and links and other things that go along with the show.
Yeah.
So when you go to civicmedia.us, just look for Matenaer On Air, click on that, and it has the entire archive.
Yeah. And you can subscribe to the show as a podcast. If you go to whether it's
wherever you get your pods,
you can subscribe. You can upload new episodes, 2 episodes a day because it's split into the 2 halves of the show. You can do that pretty much with every show on Civic Media. So be a part of it, download it, and rate us.
Yeah, we would love to. And we always love to hear from you too. You can always email at janesays@civicmedia.us. All right, 1 segment left to go. Jane goes to Game Fest.
The Midwest Gaming Classic.
That too. That's on the way. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's alright. It's alright.
Matenaer On Air. Thank you so very much for joining us. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Sweet Cal B on the board. You can always join us, 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. We're going to move on in just a second, but a little more solar eclipse conversation. Had a couple texts come in. Robert from McFarland said, can't you watch the eclipse on your phone by pointing the selfie camera at the eclipse and you watch the screen? I'm not sure about that, Robert. I haven't seen that endorsed anywhere. I would be very careful.
That doesn't sound right. What you can do, though, and I've done this and I've watched other people do it, you can, if you have the glasses, I would suggest having multiple pairs of glasses to make this work. You leave your solar eclipse glasses on. You can take a pair of them, put them over the lens of your camera and take a picture. Way. It won't be the world's greatest picture, but it's kind of cool. I'm looking at it says it's well known that during the solar eclipse without protective gear, the sun can damage your eyes permanently. However, your cell phone camera might also be at risk. According to NASA, the phone sensor could be at high risk of damage like any other image sensor if pointed directly at the sun. So
don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, Robert. Yeah.
Make yourself a cereal box solar eclipse glasses.
You can find it. It's not hard. And you have time. Lynn from Economwalk joining too. My granddaughter's Campbell Sports 7th grade class will view the eclipse at the Milwaukee Public Museum today.
Fun.
Very cool. Going to be, I'm sure, at the observatory.
Very fun.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's very, very fun. And we had a great comment on the live stream from PJ because Greg, you were asking about why there always seems to always be some kind of eclipse going on. And PJ says there are two types of eclipses, lunar and solar. During a lunar eclipse, Earth's shadow obscures the moon. During a solar eclipse, which this one is, the moon blocks the sun.
Thank you. I should have. Thank you
for
PJ.
that, PJ.
And it feels like information I should have known my entire life. Would you say that this discussion about this topic has eclipsed your story of the Midwest Gaming Classic?
It could.
Thank you. I'm smart.
I did go.
You went.
I went to the Midwest Gaming Classic, and we had talked to Matt Isbell last week, who was from the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I was just so curious about it that I went yesterday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It was family day, and I went for about 2.5 hours, and I learned some interesting things about myself.
Like what?
First of all, I was so impressed. You know, when you get in, and the Baird Center is a big place.
Oh, it's huge. It's like vast.
Yeah, it is. It's enormous. So people are waiting in line to buy their tickets, and then other people who had bought them in advance, like I did, there's another line for you to get your wristband and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Take a guess for the music they had, live music, while people were waiting to go buy their tickets.
I think it was a band. Was it a live band?
It was live music, I'll say.
8-bit video game music.
It was a xylophone player.
That sounds like, depending on my mood, either wonderful or absolutely.
I thought that was so great. I did.
No, good. I love it.
And he was good.
I'm loving this story so far.
Not that I would know a bad xylophone player from a good xylophone player.
You would.
But I just thought that's a really unique.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of backgroundy music. You don't want anything too loud. And I just thought, how cool. Someone knows it. Someone who plays a xylophone. I'd love to know someone who plays a xylophone.
Did you talk to the person?
No.
All right. Well,
all right.
What else did you learn?
I learned.
This is a new segment called Things Jane Learned.
I really like pinball.
Yes.
I haven't touched a pinball machine in, I bet, 45 years.
My word. All right.
It's been decades, and it was just never something
that
we grew up with or that was big. And I had more fun playing pinball than I would ever have anticipated.
Was there a machine? Was there one that got you're like, oh, the Kiss one or the?
There were 3.
Okay, which one?
So I kind of rotated between 3 machines.
Okay.
One was David Bowie Labyrinth.
What?
And so, in addition to the game itself, there are puppet heads on the top of the machine that light up and talk, and all this stuff is going on.
Do they say you remind me of the babe? What babe? The babe with the power? What power? The power?
So I like the David Bowie Labyrinth machine. My other favorite was the Elton John machine.
Oh, nice.
And I would love to get to play some of these where there's not so much other ambient noise.
Okay.
So you could really hear
Yeah.
hear the music
Mhm.
and hear the whatever that he's saying, because there was a lot of stuff and I had no idea what was going on. But my ultimate favorite pinball machine,
Yes.
probably of all time, and this isn't going to surprise you guys,
What?
it was The Wizard of Oz.
That's cool. I love that.
It is the prettiest video game I have ever seen.
I have to imagine the colors are beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
Fantastic. I love that.
It was, I had more fun, and the paddles are ruby slippers. You know, it's just stuff like, it's just made me happy.
There's only one pinball machine I've ever wanted, and that was the Doctor Who pinball machine. I love that one.
Okay.
Pinball machines are so much fun. Like, if you had a friend who had a pinball machine, that was the thing of like, Steve has a pinball machine.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a pool table, a pool, or a pinball machine. Those were the things that would get you to somebody's house.
Right.
And I would say now, a pinball machine would get me over to your house, or a bumper pool. I love bumper pool.
Oh, bumper pool.
Bumper pool's fun.
Well,
But-
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but yeah, this is great. I love it.
I looked up the Wizard of Oz pinball machine. There's one available on eBay, Greg Bach. Take a guess.
$22,000.
$17,000.
All right,
It came out in 2013.
Calvin,
this
me
game.
and you, we're gonna put together some funding. We're gonna cash in our Bed Bath and Beyond gift cards we got before when we were talking to Mr. Temmer. We're gonna get you this pinball machine.
17 grand seems like a little much.
Nothing's too good for my host.
And it was incredible too how spoiled I got, how quickly, because they have all kinds of much older pinball machines
Yeah.
there. So I went and played a couple of those, and it's like, you got nothing.
Was it?
Have you seen the Wizard of Oz machine
Was it
compared
free?
to this old Beatles machine? There's no comparison.
Okay, don't be mean. Sherry says on the live stream, remember the Who movie Pinball Wizard? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a fun
Oh, yeah.
song and a fun pinball game. I played that. Was it free to play them?
Free, except so admission was $25,
Yeah.
and then you could play as many times as you wanted.
Fantastic.
I mean, obviously you want to be gracious, and I would play two and then let somebody else
Yeah.
play, and you go walk around and you come back, and yeah,
But you had fun?
I had a ball. I had an absolute ball.
Jane had fun.
I hope you had fun, and I hope you will stick around. News is next, followed by Todd Alba. Thank you, Greg and Calvin. Without you guys, nothing works. Thank you all for calling and listening and texting. It means everything. I hope you find some joy today and you have the chance to share it. Stay right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.